Welcome to the Boxing Source Podcast, where we go over the latest news in boxing and react to all of the fights that happened in the past week. Now, let's go to our host, J.R. Bell. Yo, what's up? What's going on? What's good, folks? We are live here with the June 1st, 2025 edition of the Boxing Source Podcast. That's right, J.R. Bell here in the mix. We got a number of things that we're going to be talking about here on this particular podcast. Is we had a lot of action over this weekend, man. We had, of course, what happened at the Michelob Ultra Arena there in Mandalay Bay, Las Vegas. We had that Golden Boy promotion show, that was on Friday. We also had like a Matchroom show, I think it was on Friday as well. So we're going to be tapping into that type of stuff, and then also some action that's going to be coming up this weekend. Here, as of course, we got a number of fight cards is happening, whether it's over in New York or Florida or Virginia or Texas. We're going to see if we can tap into those here on this particular episode of the Boxing Source Podcast. So we got a number of topics here that we're going to be talking about, so we got a line of topics here, and, we're just going to go through them one by one here and get my take on it. And, also, if you're here, you'll listen live. You can go through the live chats. You know what I'm saying? So we could just go through all of that here on this one. So let's just run through that here. All right. So with that being said, let's see if we could get into this here. Just hold on just a second. And I'm going to get the first one here on this string here. All right. So here we are with this first one. Right. All right. So you had Caleb Plant that was as high as a 24-1 favorite against Armando Resendiz, but he ended up falling short on the scorecards. What happened in the fight? Well, Caleb Plant, came in there as the WBA interim super middleweight champion. Of course, he had, his recent losses, or I said losses overall, to Canelo Alvarez and to David Benavidez. Before this particular fight, he went in and he had that fight where he went up against Trevor McCumbee, right? And ended up getting a stoppage victory over Trevor McCumbee. So he was coming off of that fight, where he kind of looked okay. Yes, he did have a little bit of a slip up there against Trevor McCumbee, but ended up stopping him, right, over the course of 9 rounds. Then going up here against Jose Reserndiz, he looked like he would have, really done some things there against Reserndiz and, kind of like get the win. Because, like I said, he was highly favored, had the experience there, of course, not only being the WBA interim champion, but he was a former IBF super middleweight champion, right, before losing that IBF title to Canelo Alvarez. But Armando Resendiz had different plans. And, I just did not expect Armando Resendiz to perform that the way that he did. He looked like he was a more experienced fighter in the ring. He did. I mean, it wasn't just a thing as far as like Caleb Plant throwing singular shots for like the majority of the fight. You didn't really see many 2-punch combinations. Definitely really saw 3-punch combinations there from Caleb Plant. But in response to that, you've seen Armando Resendiz kind of throw 3-punch combinations almost every single time that Caleb Plant threw 1 punch. And the other thing, too, with Armando Resendiz, it wasn't just that he was, going in there 1-2, almost like a high guard 1-2. He was slipping. He was moving. He was moving, bobbing and weaving. He was stepping in and stepping out, whether it was like a double step in or a step back to get out of range from Caleb Plant. And so you mix all of that in. It just made for trouble there for Caleb Plant starting around that 3rd round. Once he got hit with the hooks there from Armando Resendiz, and there early, you've seen that Resendiz had the power that could, really affect Caleb Plant, and he just worked off of that and said, you know what? I'm only seeing Caleb Plant throwing 1 punch at a time. He was just throwing the jab, just kept throwing the jab 1. And then 2, he was throwing it off of like stepping back, like going backwards and throwing a jab. And when you do that, you're not necessarily utilizing, the full force of the jab, and you're kind of like shortening it. What I mean by that is when you shorten the jab is you're not fully extended out with the jab, like if you were standing stationary, or if in Reserndiz case, like you go forward, step forward, and throw the jab and just try to get to your opponent. And it makes for like a more forceful jab when you step forward on it. So that's what we've seen there initially from Armando Resendiz, and also with him saying, you know what, look, I'm going to just be able to try to get through what he's doing and land my shots. And that's what you've seen there pretty much in the third round. And then it got to the fourth round where you seen Resendiz land some right hooks that really affected Caleb Plant and had Caleb Plant like grabbing and going into the clinch or entering the clinch. And then once you seen that, it was more about, okay, what is Caleb Plant going to do in order to throw off the rhythm of Armando Resendiz? And we really didn't see that. We really didn't see that much from Caleb Plant. Now, there was one thing that I saw there from Caleb Plant, not just, watching live, but watching the replay there. Of course, it was on Amazon Prime Video. Was that you kind of seen a couple things that Caleb Plant tried on Armando Resendiz, and maybe he thought it would have worked, but it didn't necessarily work. One of the things I did see from him was the double left hook. Yep, the double left hook, that he used in order to score a knockout victory, right? And once he tried that double left hook on Armando Resendiz, Armando was still there with him. He was still there with him. So I seen that. I seen like a couple of other joints where he tried to throw like a lead right hand, and it didn't necessarily work there on Armando Resendiz. And on the flip side, you seen Resendiz throw 3 and 4 punch combinations on Caleb Plant, throwing the hooks to the body when he was able to get within range, or when he had Caleb Plant to the ropes, and eventually wore down Caleb Plant in the middle rounds. And when you see Caleb Plant having only like 1 or 2 punches at a time, that doesn't constitute for much for him winning rounds. You know what I mean? Shout out to Jesus Sim there on the live chat as well. Had our brother Jay, I think Jay Palin is on here as well. So shout out to y'all being on here early on the Boxing Source podcast, man. Jesus Sim has a suggestion for a fight at 168, which is a really interesting fight there at 168. Let's see if I could, talk about that here a little bit later, right? But when I was talking about the thing here with Caleb Plant, for the majority of the fight, just throwing 1 punch at a time wasn't going to work. And throwing a jab, no. Especially when you're throwing a jab, stepping backwards, no. I don't know if he was gonna, trying to set a trap there for Armando Resendiz, but even with that, it didn't necessarily go well for him because Resendiz was almost like beating him to the punch in multiple occasions. Landed the power shots, as I said, starting from round 3, and kind of wore down Caleb Plant to the point where round 10 and round 11, you did see like a little bit of a cut over the side of Caleb Plant. Over the side of his eye, Caleb Plant. And, from there, I just seen like the majority of those rounds from the middle rounds to the late rounds going towards Armando Resendiz. So when it ended up going to the scorecards, you had like, 8 rounds to 4 for Resendiz, 7 rounds to 5 for Caleb Plant, and then 8 rounds to 4 for Resendiz for him to get the split decision win. I didn't see where Caleb Plant won 7 rounds. I just didn't see it. You know what I mean? But I'll be able to, break it down a little bit more. I got one of my great panelists to join in on the podcast here, of course, a long-time panelist here. And it's my guy, of course, out there from the South area, the Boxing Academics in the building. What's going on, Boxing Academic?
What's up, JR? How you doing tonight?
All good, man. All good, man. Like I said, Resendiz, did his thing here against Caleb Plant, getting his decision win. And I just felt like he just outworked Caleb Plant from, I would say, round 4 on. That, once he was able to land those big shots early in round 4, you really didn't see much coming from Caleb Plant for the majority of the fight. And that the jab that he was just doing was just the only weapon that he used for most of the fight until, trying something else that didn't work in the double left hook that he used against Darrell that knocked out Darrell, right? But here in this case, that double left hook really didn't phase Armando Resendiz in this bout. So I say, like, props to Reserndiz because he fought like a great fight. I did not see those elements of Resendiz, or I don't remember seeing those elements of Armando Resendiz in the previous fights that he had that were, featured on these Premier Boxing Champions cards, even against Jarrett Hurd, where he got the stoppage win, and in the fight against Elijah Garcia, where he ended up losing. I didn't see those movements. I didn't see the, bob and weave and kind of slipping a little bit, stepping back, when Caleb Plant would throw a jab at times. And he just fought like a very, very good fight here against Caleb Plant. So that's what I had in the initial assessment of it that, I'll be able to go into a little bit later. What did you see there from both Caleb Plant and Armando Resendiz?
Yeah, definitely good fight for Reserndiz. Caleb Plant definitely had some on the line where they were sort of anticipating the fight with Charlo, and I don't think he lived up to his part of the bargain in terms of what he sort of put out, and some of it may not it's his fault, but some of it may not be something that he could have changed in a sense, because to me, Caleb Plant looked very similar in that the ineffectiveness of his offense when he went against Canelo. And at least with Canelo, he was moving and landing more shots because he probably threw more shots than Canelo. But with a fighter that you cannot hurt, which gave Reserndiz more confidence, with a fighter that literally, or at least most of the time, all you're doing is sort of retreating, and then you throwing a weak jab that didn't make him pause for calls on anything. And his offense was sort of one-dimensional, and I guess normally he's able to use the jab and to land other shots, but yeah, he looked kind of weak to me. He looked like weak. He looked like Malinaji or something. Without the fast, jabs and stuff.
Yeah.
And so throw in a fighter who's only throwing jabs mostly, and then he's throwing weak jabs. The only thing for the other fighter to do is to put pressure on you and to see if he can hurt you and get you out of there. Because if there's nothing that you throw that can affect him, and then he tried a few different things. He tried a couple uppercuts. He tried some hooks there, some other little things and stuff, but all his punches were weak. And I'm not saying he was afraid to sit down on his punches, but he was very apprehensive to sit down to even get power on the shots, because Reserndiz was hitting him with 2 and 3 shots. And then probably what's even bigger than that, he don't practice sitting down on his shots.
Yeah.
So it'd be hard pressed for us to expect for him to do that in a fight when he doesn't practice it. Like, if you don't practice it, it's not going to happen in the fight, especially when the pressure is high. And I'll save my comments on if he fights Charlo.
All right, cool. So, you brought it up there with Caleb Plant, is that, he kind of fought, as they say sometimes, fought defensively when he just fights on his back foot. But, for one, it's one thing when you have like an offensive minded fighter, so to speak, that does like walk forward or comes forward against your opponent, right? And people say, those guys, try to have the ability or learn to cut off the ring. But when you voluntarily back up and you voluntarily back yourself to the ropes and to the corner, they don't really have to work on doing that because you're just giving that to them. And it seemed like for the majority of the fight, that's what Caleb Plant was doing. He was just backing himself, to the ropes and just throwing a jab, but not working off that. Like all you see was single punches. That's it. Just single punches. Rarely a 1-2 or rarely like a 1-2-1 with Caleb Plant. And, when it looked like, Armando Resendiz figured that out, Manny Robles figured that out and said, you know what? Nah, I'm going to just, go thin and then I'm going bob and weave a little, a few times, but every time you throw one, I'm gonna throw three because I know that you ain't gonna be throwing another one, regardless if you land the first one or not. You're not really looking, you're not throwing the other shot. So I'm gonna just throw three, whether I land one or two or all three. I'm gonna look like I'm doing better than you in these exchanges. And when you have judges that are, usually sitting there ringside on three different angles, all they're gonna see is one fighter throwing three punches and another fighter throwing one. And if that one punch that was thrown really didn't knock off the momentum, then they're gonna go with the guy that was throwing three punches, most likely. So that's why I saw there, particularly after the fourth round, and Resendez just banked on that and then worked on a little bit more there on Caleb Plant, getting to the body. Like I said, landing those hooks there, particularly in the sixth round, where it seemed like he really got to Caleb Plant with those hooks there before the end of the sixth round. And that's where I felt like all the momentum that maybe Caleb Plant had early shifted over to Armando Resendiz there.
And Robles is smart enough to sort of project what offense to expect. Like you just said, Resendez, would throw a punch and Caleb would throw a punch, but then he would throw more punches because he didn't expect for, another punch or two to come. And so I would attribute that to Caleb is a great fighter. I've seen Caleb in person when he fought Butts, and that made me a fan of his many years ago. So I'm doing a compliment sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
But like his offense don't allow him to throw like punches at certain angles or even what would have made the fight more competitive, like moving, walking Resendez into a shot. He wasn't even doing that. To your point, He was just literally walking to the ropes, and Resendez, the mental pressure that he sort of had Caleb under, like almost made Caleb ineffective in a sense. Like he wasn't doing like Caleb is always on the line to me, to where he's boxing people or outboxing people versus where you asking yourself, is he about to get overwhelmed? And so typically in the fights, he's always on that line, but he's a little bit past the line where he outboxing people.
Yeah.
But now he's on the line, but then, he wasn't doing other things that allow him to like steal shots and sort of negate somebody throwing 2 and 3 punches. His offense, his arsenal don't allow him to, move to the left and then, maybe throw a quick right shot, spin off the rope and then hit him or something and then jab and, it don't allow him to do that. And again, Caleb is a great fighter, but with certain styles, his offense, his repertoire don't allow him to do that.
Now, you made a good point there in reference to Caleb's movement, because you've seen him there earlier in his career, around the time when he was the IBF super middleweight champion, and we had those skills then, but we still had it to the point where he was like a linear fighter, in that he doesn't necessarily move side to side that much, but he could get to the point where he could connect with his shots, but then move back and be out of the line, or out of your range of your punch. You know what I mean? So with that being said, now he's kind of had a little bit slower movement. He's had those, fights, like I said, with Canelo Alvarez, with David Benavidez, with Trevor McCumbee, and it's it's been this is his 5th fight. From the Canelo fight, it's been 5 fights that he's had, so it's basically been 1 fight a year, just one. And when you have something like that, you don't necessarily get to the point where you can really, freshen up with what you need to do, or be, a lot more comfortable in your mannerisms than if you had 2 fights a year or something like that. So with him, he only had that fight with Trevor McCumbee last year. And then the year before that, he had the fight against David Benavidez, which was in March. So you're going from March of 2023 to September of 2024, and now May of 2025. That's a extended stretch there. We're only having 3 fights, so now it's like, okay, how do I get myself in the gear to be like, am I really comfortable in doing what I need to do, or doing what I'm used to doing against an opponent that many people expect for me to, definitely beat. And I don't see that he's kind of made himself to the point where he can do the things that he used to do, like back in what I would say, 2019, 2020, when he was the IBF super middleweight champion. Now, he got a little bit more years under his belt. Two tough fights as far as like losses, stoppage loss to Canelo, Benavidez, where he got beat up there in the second half of the fight. So now it's like, okay, is he still able to, move and be like a quick twitch type of fighter that he was years past? And it doesn't really look like it. Shout out to those just joining in on live chat here. Talk Trends in the building. Modern King Boxing in the building. Brother Lance Meyer in the building. What's going on with you? So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting there for Caleb Plant on that side, because like he was saying there in the post-fight press conference that he did have some issues with his right hand. He said he had issues with his right hand. But for me, I would be like, well, see if you could try to do something to throw off the timing, or move or surprise Reserndiz. And that's why I was saying in reference to his movement, he's linear in movement there, where he can't like move off to the side, or move to the left or move to the right, to where he's off the line of Reserndiz. So even if he only had like one hand that he could really utilize, at least try to do something where you could set those traps and be like, okay, if I know that he's coming forward, I could try to set a feint up to get him to commit, and then after he commits, I could still like land the left uppercut or something, or land like a hook or something to really throw him off. But we didn't see that here from Caleb Plant. On the flip side with Reserndiz, I mean, I did have something on the site where he said like he's been in the camp there with Manny Robles for months. They've been like doing some real work out there. But someone told me like he must have had like another coach that had him working on different things, because as I was mentioning, I swear to y'all, I did not see this in a Jerry Hurd fight. I didn't see this in the Elijah Garcia fight. I'm like, where did this come from? Maybe they implemented a few more things here with Armando Resendiz, because I'm like, he looked like a really, really good fighter in there, stepping in, stepping out, doing a bob and weave, catching and slipping, like, and then just saying like, hey, okay, you're gonna throw the jab, cool, I'm gonna throw a jab with you, and then throw another hook, and then come back with the like a 1-2-1, and I'm like, man, so this one right here, like this puts Reserndiz right there in the mix in the 168-pound division. He does have now the interim WBA super middleweight title, and it's just on what Caleb Plant's going to do here, after this particular fight. I mean, he did mention, like, yeah, I got a rematch clause as a WBA interim champ. I don't know, like, I'm being honest with y'all. I ain't never heard an interim champion with a rematch clause. I'm just saying, I've never heard it. Okay, but you still had that, and then of course the other fight that was mentioned as the one that they were trying to build up with this particular card. So still more options there, but I'll revisit that topic here in a little bit. You got anything more on this particular fight with Reserndiz and Plant?
Yeah, I got a question, then I got comments. So the insinuation is he had right hand issues, which is why his offense was one-sided, and he didn't really use the right hand a lot. That's the insinuation, right?
Yeah, that's what we were saying at the post-fight press conference.
I don't know, even if he did have two hands. Well, with the way that the scoring went, maybe so. Maybe it would have been a tie. Something. Yeah. So outside of the scoring being in his favor, I'm not sure, even if he had two hands, that this style, like again, he's always on the fence of quasi outboxing you, but quasi getting overwhelmed. And then, you know, he does a little something that always, where you can always make a case that he outboxing, but it ain't enough power to like get your respect. And like even in the fight where he did the left hook to get the knockout.
Yeah, Darrell.
Like that was a good shot. That was a real good shot.
Mm-hmm.
But was that dare I say it, was that luck? Was that just
well, I'll say this. You know, given what was going on live for that fight, right? You know, it looked like, you know, he was like outboxing him, outpointing him. Like, I didn't really see like those instances where he really stunned Darrell, right? So I'm there, like I'm covering, you know, taking pictures there at Barclays Center and stuff like that, right? And then it's like that moment there in that round, and then I'm in the middle of like looking at photos and seeing which is like clear and blurry and all that stuff, and like doing deleting, and all of a sudden I look up, and Darrell is there on the canvas. I'm like, yo, what happened? Yo, what? And then I see it was a double left, and I'm like, oh man, you know. So sometimes, you know,
you heard the thud.
Moments.
You had to have heard the thud because it was a loud thud.
Yeah, it was a loud thud, but like, man, I mean, you know, that's the thing, man. I heard it, but like I didn't see the double left hook. I'm just saying, I didn't see it. I was like, yo, so kind of like got me there, man. Gorgio here in the building asked the question: was Resendiz with Robles for Hurd and Garcia? He was with them for one of those fights. I seen like they got the highlights there. Shout out to Premier Boxing Champions. They got on the highlights where, you know, you had the referee, you know, giving the instructions before the start of the fight. I did see Manny Robles there for at least one of them, but I was trying to look for, you know, the full fight. You know, it would have been on Amazon Prime Video or something, you know, but I couldn't see it. So I looked at the highlights there from Premier Boxing Champions. So Robles was with them for at least one of them, though. I could say that. So yeah, that's the thing on that. And Talk Trends asks, is Caleb Plant horrible with Mexican style pressure? Maybe he is.
Ain't no maybe. Yes, he is. It could be any style pressure.
It is too, though. Like I was
saying, it could be Kazakhstan pressure, any pressure. He it's a bad style for him.
And the thing is, it was going back to like what we're saying in him being linear in this movement. It's not like he moves side to side. He moves back, you know, backward and forward.
Yeah.
So they don't necessarily have to make much of an effort to cut off the ring, because either he's going to be right there or he'll pin himself in the corner or pin himself to the ropes, it seems. And when you have that, like, you don't have to utilize much effort to, you know, try to throw a hook to get him from moving to one side, or, you know, throwing like a hook upstairs to, you know, get him from moving to another side. It's almost like he's going to be there right for you. So,
and especially if you throw multiple punches, he's going to be right there for them multiple punches.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one thing that oh, were you done with this thought?
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing that I am interested in other people's thoughts. Caleb Plant has a demeanor where he has like the alpha dog demeanor outside of the ring. You will respect me, you know, blah, 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 that type of demeanor. And from what I can see, it's real, right? That's like a real sort of demeanor. However, my thing is, how do you fight like that when you got like that big dog demeanor?
Well, how could I say it? He's like a, you know, as they say, cool, you know, laid back, all that type of stuff, right? But he's more of a person that, like, you don't try him. He don't like if you try to try him, because if you do, then that's when, as what is it, like Bud Crawford says, I get active, right? So if you, I guess, disrespect him or something like that, then he'll be like, nah, hell nah, I don't do that. We don't do that around here. But I guess in the ring it's more of like, hey, he feels like he's comfortable in doing what he does in the ring and not necessarily, changes it up or mixes it up with all of that stuff there, right? So I think that type of demeanor doesn't necessarily work in the ring against, like certain fighters. Because like you said, man, like all of these Mexican pressure style fighters, like really, have them, in the tizzy. Now, here's a good question. Shout out to Talk Trends here for this question, because this is one thing that I was going to bring up in reference to this card in general. And he asked, do we blame Breadman for this? He didn't give no tactics. Now, the reason why I say that this is a good question is because Caleb Plant wasn't the only fighter that Breadman was in the corner with on that night. He was also in the corner for Mr. Keyshawn Davis when Keyshawn Davis was going up against Yoeli Hernandez earlier in the telecast. And Yoeli Hernandez just absolutely beat up Keyshawn Davis over the course of 10 rounds. It was bad. He had a knockdown early in the fight, but outside of that, man, he was just, torching them. I thought you would have had one thing there where he was going to stop the fight, but Breadman didn't do that. And shout out to Battle Brunch Boxing. He was like, there was one thing about Breadman Edwards. He is not going to stop the fight, no matter what happens to his fighter. I'm like, oh, come on, man. But
and then
it's like Breadman didn't necessarily have many adjustments for Keyshawn Davis against Hernandez and for Caleb Plant here against Armando Resendiz. That was something that he says, man, yeah, that fight should have been stopped. Keyshawn, man, that could have been the end of Kyshawn's career, man. Yeah, man. That was bad. It was really bad watching that. It was insane, man.
And what's his name was in there like Deontay Wilder. That's how confident he was.
Oh yeah, the 10th round. Yeah, the 10th round. He's like, come on.
I'm talking about when he hit him and he was just standing there with his arms down, just looking at him. Yeah. Oh yeah, you remember when Wilder did that to Stavern?
Stavern.
And then he did it to somebody else too.
Was it either no, it wasn't Luis Ortiz in the first fight. I forgot who it was.
Oh, it might have been Luis Ortiz after he hurt Ortiz. But it was somebody else though.
Yeah, man. It was
when he was standing over there, just his arms down, looking all menacing and stuff. Hey, he saw my boy Wilder do it. And my boy, let me say this.
All right.
It wasn't no instruction Breadman could have gave him that would have salvaged that fight. The best instruction, I think, I'm being funny when I say this. The one instruction he gave that was the realest instruction to give was, well, maybe not at the time, I don't know. But in round 12 or whatever, he said, round 11 or 12, round 11, he said, he's going to come out to knock you out, something along these lines. Don't let him knock you out. Do whatever you got to do to survive. Don't let him knock you out. Yeah. That's what he said.
Man, I heard something about the Hernandez Keyshawn Davis fight that was good, but I'll mess it up though. Shout out to Legacy Remains. Everything else fades. Said #1 source of boxing news of the boxing source. Hey man, I'm just trying to provide the information to y'all as much as I can and get proper sources and reference to all of that. As outside of that, I just rather have y'all go directly to the fighters or the promoters or whatever. But I just try to, make my effort to, get the latest news or, of what's going on with some of these fighters or whatever it is. And, just try to build on that. You feel me? But also with Breadman Edwards, during the Keyshawn Davis fight against Yoeli Hernandez, like he said something to the effect of like, what was it? The Michael Jordan quote, "You'll miss 100% of the shots you don't take." He said like something like it. You'll always miss a shot that you don't throw. Keep throwing. Like he's like you never land a shot that you don't throw.
And Keyshawn looked at him like, "Motherfucker, do you see this? See what this dude is throwing at me? If I open up, what you think about to happen?" It was just overmatched. He was just overmatched.
I know, like, as I be saying, anything happens in the sport of boxing, but Keyshawn Davis was like, yo, come on. Oh my God, yo, there was just really nothing much that Keyshawn Davis could do to affect Willie Hernandez, man. And yeah, I guess it looked like it was surprising that he was actually able to go through the 10 rounds. Because man, he was just getting pieced up, bro. It was, oh man, that was bad. That was bad, yo.
His saving grace was that Hernandez got tired. And then the one round where he threw more punches, or probably on par, if not more punches, with Hernandez, 10 or 11 or something, probably 10. But he was just essentially just kind of tired at that point.
Yeah, round 10. Yeah, that was a 10 rounder there with Hernandez and Keyshawn Davis, man. And
the 10 rounder, so round 8 then. It was like round 8 then.
Yeah. Like, man, and this is the thing with Hernandez, man. I mean, I hear about him and they say, hey, he been doing work with, like, you know, folks out there with David Morrell Jr. over in Houston, or, you know, over with Canelo Alvarez over in California, or something like that. So they say, hey, man, this guy could potentially be the good. So, you know, look for him to, you know, contend there in the middleweight division, and, you know, could be in line for a world title shot there by next year, even though he's already rated, I think, #1 in the WBA. So I think he's like right there in the mix where he could, you know, contend for a world title shot, you know, very soon. You know, yeah, they got him at #1 in the WBA at middleweight, but, you know, got a, you know, a fellow Cuban as the world champion there, Reserndiz Lara. So I don't see them two fighting.
And they said he's not trying to fight Lara.
Yeah, man.
The only thing I say about that, though, I don't think we learned. Okay, we learned a little bit about him in this fight, but you can't learn an exorbitant amount about him by facing somebody that he just sort of overwhelms, somebody that he just that much head over heels better than. We won't learn really what the goods really are until he faces somebody that is on par with him. Because just facing somebody that you better than, that you can like showboat and do and one moves and stuff like that, that don't tell us nothing. I mean, it tell us that he got power. It tell us that, I mean, he's slick, but everybody like that against overmatched people, like how is he when he fights somebody that is competitive against him?
Yeah, I mean that's gonna be a question there for Hernandez. And yo, shout out to those there. What it said, that the thing is, Hernandez might be the best Cuban in the game right now. It says, love to see him against Janibek or one of the champions. I mean, you only got, like I said, Reserndiz Lara's there, WBA. Janibek got 2 of the belts. Carlos Adames got the WBC belt, and he should be scheduled to, you know, fight maybe Miriam Sultanov in August. So now it's just more about, like, if they're gonna wait on, you know, what happens there with the WBA title, because Lara ain't been fighting anybody yet. So I don't know if you're gonna have a voluntary defense from Reserndiz Lara or not. And looking at the WBA rankings, man, there ain't nobody that, you know, could be suggested as a good opponent. Therefore, Willie Hernandez, man, like, they ain't gonna put him up there against Elijah Garcia. That would be career. Just being honest with you, that might really be career affecting if they put Elijah Garcia in there against Hernandez. That wouldn't be good. You know, he already had, you know, the loss to Keyshawn Davis, right? And then he had the one that decision win that, you know, many thought that he lost there in his last bout against Terrell Gausha. So you put Elijah Garcia in there against Willie Hernandez now? Nah, that wouldn't be a good look there at all. You feel me? All right, so I'm gonna go to this next one here, as he had the co-feature about Jermall Charlo. He stopped Thomas Cornflake LaManna within 6 rounds. Is he like back in the mix? And could he make some noise there at 168 pounds? I mean, Jermall Charlo, of course, with the extended layoffs that he's had, what is it, like 5 fights in 5 years or whatever it is, had the last bout against Jose Benavidez Jr., right? So now he's like back in here against Thomas LaManna, and you kind of like looked at a couple of things that he was doing there. Looked like the old school Jermall Charlo there, 154 and 160 pounds. Was able to do a number of things there against Thomas LaManna. But looking at that fight, I hate to say it, Thomas LaManna didn't give him any resistance whatsoever. Like nothing, absolutely nothing. But it did like open Jermall Charlo to do some more things here and there. Landed the right hand, and then once he started to throw that right hand, it was just basically over for Cornflake. You know what I mean? And he had Cornflake doing his shaky leg, the icky shuffle, the electric slide, all that type of stuff there in the ring. Because he may have Bambi legs, whatever it was. Just being honest, had Thomas LaManna having Bambi legs up there. You know what I mean? Or doing like the Harlem Shake. He was doing something. I don't know what he was doing. He did like a little Harlem Shake before, almost kind of touching the canvas. But Jermall Charlo gets the win, gets the first stoppage win that he's had in his career since 2019. That shows you how inactive he's been to have his first stoppage win or KO win since 2019. That's crazy. And like you said, we definitely wanted to get this bout in. Of course, he used to be with Coach Ronnie Shields, but now he is like back with Highland Williams Sr. I was saying like he had a first fight with him. Nah, he's been with Highland Williams since he was little kid. But here he just felt like what, I just had to get this fight out of the way, make sure that I was able to do what I needed to do there in the ring, and just properly executed there in that. So now it's about like what could be next for him at 168. He wants to get right back in the ring. Now, of course, we had what happened in the main event that really could affect the schedule here for Jermall Charlo, because a number of people felt like, hey, if Jermall won and Caleb Plant won, then they could have something set up for maybe late October or November here this year. But now with this happening, it's like, I don't know, but Boss Academic, what did you see there from Jermall Charlo in his win over Thomas LaManna?
I'm so used to him being shredded that with him being filled out in the weight, he looked more he looked a little softer to me. And one of the questions I sort of had when I saw his body, because obviously he didn't have to do all the other stuff that he probably had to do to get down in the weight, but I'm like, will it affect him? Luckily, he was fighting a guy that he was just, even getting out of bed and probably not working out for like 2 months, he probably could come in and beat him. In LaManna, like he just was, his power was there. Let me give him that. And so luckily his power was there. He to me has always been the better fighter of the two brothers, in that the way that he sort of uses his jab always sets him up for success, and it sets up the other shots. We know he got a hellacious uppercut, which I'm so sad he didn't use it this fight. And he was gonna use it, but he just didn't get the opportunity to.
Yeah.
But yeah, he looked decent. Again, it's hard to judge him off of fighting somebody that he's just that much better than. But the things that you would expect of him to do against an opponent who shouldn't be in the ring with him, he did everything that you could ask of him. He stayed within what's his strengths, jabbing, working off everything, getting the rounds in. He said that his friends betted on round 5, so he should have tried to get him out in round 5. But yeah, LaManna was probably more bark than anything, And one thing I will say.
Yeah, go ahead.
The only thing I will say, I thought it was a good stoppage when they stopped it, and I was proud of Charlo because he had a very mature response when the fight ended. He went over, she shook LaManna's hand. He didn't brag, he didn't boast, and he told him to keep his head up. And he didn't gloat when he knew he was just that much better than LaManna. And so, I'll wait till when you talk about it, but I have my thoughts on a fight with Charlo and Plant. But yeah, I'm glad that he you can tell he has a more mature response, and unfortunately, when life hits you in the face and you got to overcome, that sort of makes you mature. So he definitely had a great champion response. He didn't gloat, which he could have.
Yeah, life be life, and as they said, life be life, and then given what he had been going through over the past couple of years, what's been happening recently, that kind of had him to where he is at this particular point. Now he's like, you know what? Now I see like what's been going on and what I've been doing. Now I gotta clean myself up, and having people that he's had around him when he started his career is there to help him out a little bit. Having his brother there, having Highland Williams Sr. there, having Joan Guzman there, who's also been there in the corner with Jermall Charlo. That kind of we gets him back in focus as far as like doing what he needs to do in the ring, doing what he needs to do in the gym, and you kind of like seeing those elements there in the fight, and where he kind of was very comfortable in what he was doing, whether it was, sticking with the jab or, following through with the right hand, or, getting in close quarters and breaking away from those and being able to throw either left or right hooks to put down LaManna, that he was, he showed that he has those different elements that, as I mentioned, you've seen when he was doing this thing at 154 and 160 pounds. So as long as he just keeps on that path, then yeah, he could really do some damage there at 168 pounds. Yeah, there are a lot of names out there at 168. But with Jermall Charlo, given what he's been able to do in those two other weight classes, he could do some work here at 168. We already had somebody that came up from 154 that won titles at 154, was unified at 160. And now is the undisputed champion at 168 in Canelo Alvarez. So, hey, I mean, Charlo, I think, has the elements to do that there. And yeah, we'll get on it there, man. So the next question there was like, hey, will we see the grudge match between Plant and Charlo next, or will Plant call for the rematch? What is the better option for Plant? I'll let you go ahead on that here while I check out these comments there. So what you got on these questions?
I don't think Plant should worry about rematching this fight with Reserndiz, because again, the style is not great for him. He's getting older. His ability to like do things that he did when he was younger, obviously he's having injuries. Even with two hands, it'll be closer to a tie. It'll be a split. It'll be a real split decision if he did fight the fight again with two hands. And I'm giving the benefit of the doubt that he didn't have two hands by the way that he sort of fought. Yeah, if he fights Charlo definitely will hurt him once or twice in the fight. I'm not saying that Charlo would stop him definitively, but Charlo would probably win 9-3. And the 9-3 would come from, the knockdowns, one or two knockdowns that he get if he don't stop Plant. Plant ain't gonna do enough to keep him off of him, because the one thing that Charlo does the best is the thing that I think. So Charlo has a better jab than Plant. He has a more educated jab. He has a more disciplined jab. And unfortunately, Plant, the way Plant sort of delivers his jab, he limits his ability to throw it in different ways with power. So he can only really throw it from the little bladed stance and do whatever, because he hadn't practiced throwing the jab on balance with from other ways, versus Charlo can throw the jab different ways, and he can be on balance to even hit you with other shots. And that's going to be Caleb Plant's downfall. So yeah, I would say either 9, it's going to be a landslide, unanimous decision, or knockout.
We got Smitty saying he got 8-4 Charlo, but you got Jesus Sam that's picking Caleb because he says that Charlo's garbage. Come on, man. Like, come on, yo. Oh man. But like you were saying, particularly in the difference with the jab there from Jermall Charlo and Caleb Plant, is that with Jermall Charlo, it's more of an emphatic type of jab. as I would say, like an offense jab in comparison to a defensive jab there from Caleb Plant, where Caleb is more of like stationary but moves back and throws a jab going backwards, where Jermall Charlo will probably just have the high guard or semi-high guard and boom, just throw it emphatically and build off of that. And also, with Caleb, as we were saying earlier, being linear in this movement, like he doesn't have much where he could get away from what Charlo could do, especially early in the fight if Charlo was able to land the jab early. But yeah, right now, given the performance that Caleb Plant had yesterday, and some could maybe say what happened against Trevor McCumbee in his last fight, that I'm not too sure. You know what I mean? Jesus, man, come on, man. Come on.
And one knockdown will be an uppercut.
Oh, that's the other thing too, right? That Jermall Charlo could set up shots to where he could do. He's done. Hey, he was able to knock down J. Rock Williams with a catch and shoot. So that's the thing. Plant would have to watch out for that, and it's more about like what did you say? Well, though I ain't even gonna bring up that comment that you said about the lower weight classes, but with Caleb Plant, he kind of like builds off.
What I said, I don't remember what I said.
Like we you was talking about, I think it was like one of those joints from way back when I did a pound for pound list, and we have like a couple of guys there that maybe from flyweight or super bantamweight, and they they look like 1,000 beasts, and they just think like this or whatever it is. So yeah. So, but with Caleb Plant though, it's like you haven't seen much where he could really work off of being emphatic with his jab and kind of work off of that. It's more of like a counter type of thing with Caleb Plant, unless if he just has a thing where he just like either throws like a lead right or just goes in there with like a double, like I said, with a double left. But outside of that, it's more he doesn't set up his shots in a sense like a Jermall Charlo would do. So that's the thing on that, man. So it's I don't know, man, that he really considered this, because the thing about it is too, right? Jordan Plant's about to have another kid too. I mean, well, the thing about it was Armando Resendiz, wife is about to have a kid themselves, right? So I mean, I don't know, man. It's gonna be something, man.
Like what really is in it for him to get whatever belt this is? Like what money?
Yeah.
What money is it to fight Reserndiz and then to lose years off of your career? Because at this point, his career is sort of a time bomb, or maybe not a time bomb. It's okay. Ticking. Like Reserndiz doesn't do anything for his value. Like he need to fight fights that's gonna get him the most money.
So does it look like at this point we know what Caleb Plant is as far as like what he does in the ring? Like he's there, he's, as we were saying, he's linear, he throws a jab, but he'll throw like a singular jab at a time, doesn't throw that many combinations. So if you know that you could throw with him, or if you know that, hey, maybe I could take a number of the shots that he throws, that I could just say, you know what, throw caution to the wind, have him land a jab, but I'm going to throw my shots and see if I'm able to, hurt him that way. So that could be the question there, with Caleb Plant from this point forward. So whether it's going to be a rematch with Reserndiz or having a grudge match with Jermall Charlo, who knows?
Or does he see fight a style that we know he can win against, that he fights against an overmatched person? Does he do C and do that?
I don't know.
Don't fight against a pressure style and fight against somebody that you better than.
I mean, that's gonna be tough though, because if he had a rematch with Resendez, I don't know if he could. I don't know if he could do it. That's how much it looked like, because that 7 round. I mean, that 7-5 scorecard, like that was crazy. I didn't see where Plant got 7 rounds off that. Like, he was really getting worked in the second half of the fight. So I'm seeing it to the point where if Resendez has another fight with Caleb Plant, unless if Plant has something completely different that he does with his style, it could get bad for him again. All right, next up here, man. So we had like fights on Friday as well, through Golden Boy and Matchroom Boxing. You had like, what is it, Beck the Bully, Bekmetier Melikuziev, giving Darius Fulgham his first loss. How does this affect the super middleweight division? Now, this was a good fight. I mean, this was a really good fight between Bekmetier Melikuziev and Darius Fulgham. You've seen Fulgham like work him like at a distance, but then when Bekmetier got to him, it was, he was working the inside. I think he had the better of the inside. He ended up having a point deducted in the middle of the fight, but then in the 12th round, he was able to score a knockdown on Darius Fulgham, and that, in some cases that may have been the difference. But he had 3 scores of 114, 112, which meant that with no point deduction and no knockdown, he would have had it 115, 113, 7-5 on all 3 scorecards. So it looked like the judges lean more towards the activity of sorts, or his approach to Darius Fulgham. But I thought it was a very good and very close fight between those two. They're around that middle of the pack point. They're in the super middleweight division before trying to get to those contenders. So there for Fulgham, I mean, that's a serious step back, losing to Melikuziev there. But Melikuziev, props to him. He got back from having that knockout loss that he had there to he was able to avenge that, my bad, with Gabe Rosado, right? So he has that knockout loss to Gabe Rosado, was able to get it back in a rematch, and ever since then, he's been winning ever since. So he had a fight against Lante Fox, against David Stevens last year, and then now here against Darius Fulgham, where he gets a unanimous decision win. So now he could be potentially back in the mix to say, hey, maybe I could get one of those better fights at 168. I gotta figure out like who else would be out there that he could potentially have as an opponent. But super middleweight, they have a number of those contenders out there, so it's a mixed bag of sorts there. You got Diego Pacheco, you got Berlanga, you got Mbili, you got Lester Martinez, who was suggested as a potential opponent for Armando Resendiz, but Lester Martinez may have something coming up here in September. So I don't know. It would be a good matchup there. I think actually that could still be possible for Beck Melikuziev. So I think that with 168, they have a whole lot of guys that are in the mix there, with Canelo at the top, and then a whole lot of these fighters there, trying to fight for, I guess, number 2 or something. You know what I mean? So that's why I got off that. They just had the WBA rankings on, and they put Melikuziev there at number 3, just above Darius Fulgham at number 4, and you got Lester Martinez at number 2 there, and Christian and Billy at number 1. So that's what they got. I mean, it's a number of fighters there at 168 that you could, mix and match and have fights with each other, and you can see who ends up being the best out of that. Because after September, I don't think we're going to see Canelo really campaigning there at 168 to that capacity from this point forward. You know what I mean? It's the WBA. Like, he beat. That's the thing. Shout out Bruce Gass. It's the WBA interim title that Caleb had, right? And then Resendez beat him for that WBA belt. So he's now the WBA interim champion now. You know what I mean? He said also with that fight, Resendez uses his head like another punch. Yeah, he did use his head.
They should have took a point for that. because he did it so many times, and he was doing it on purpose too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it almost looked like when Isaac Cruz fought what was it? Giovanni Cabrera.
Yep.
Yeah, he was using it. I was like, man.
Like jumping up, kind of like what's his name did Floyd, sort of.
Oh yeah, Ortiz.
Yeah, but I mean different, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So Bruce Gas says what he reminded him of Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield did do that a number of times there too. But yeah, with Melakuziev getting this win, he's now I guess he would be in the mix for fighting for what an interim title maybe. Because like I said, I don't know what's going to happen after September. There with Canelo versus Crawford or whatnot. So props to him. I felt like it was a good fight, a very good fight. For people that of course, if you're like a boxing junkie or whatever it is, that maybe you would have caught it live. They're on the Zone or YouTube, Golden Boy YouTube, but it was a very good scrap that they had. So I think that it will just make for either some people may want to see if they could get a rematch between these two, or maybe we see Bekmambetov Melakuziev against maybe Alessa Martinez to kind of say the winner here would be next in line for a world title shot or something like that. So that's how I had off that. And then you also had, what was it, Khalil Cole that had a fight over in Mexico that was a rematch that he had against Manuel Gallegos. He ended up stopping him, basically beat him with a jab from early. Like he landed the jab early, and then after that, you seen like Gallegos getting cut up or whatever it is, like in those first couple of rounds, and then after that, Khalil Cole just went to work, just kept throwing the jab, and Gallegos had no answer. And Cole got the stoppage, like TKO victory there to get the WBC USA light heavyweight title back. So he avenged his loss that he had at Wells Fargo Arena over in Philadelphia last year. And MJ Akhmadaliev, I think he was able to get a win over Luis Castillo. So he's looking forward to his bout with Naoya Inoue, where Inoue gonna cook him. I'm sorry. I don't see MJ really affecting Inoue like that. I feel like Inoue's gonna cook him. I feel like that. Like Cardenas was like a real like stout type of fighter that could really hit. MJ ain't like that. He's more of like a boxer that will overwhelm you, so to speak, and get like TKOs. I would say number of wins that he has are like TKO victories. They're not like full-fledged knockouts. They're like TKOs. You know what I mean? So I don't really see him doing much against Inoue in September either. So that's why I had on those fights. I mean, let me see what else is there. Like I don't know if you had more on the super middleweight division though, because I was talking about Bekmambetov and Fulgham, but like I was saying, there's like a lot of fighters out there at super middleweight that you could say could make for great matchups though.
Yeah, I think the fighters that you mentioned are all in the vicinity as far as skill of each other. So that makes them interesting. I think if Charlo is closer to what he was before, then he should be better than all those guys.
Yeah.
But obviously he's older, so
I thought they had put Jermall Charlo in the rankings there, either in the WBA or something like that. But now I don't see him. And I mean he just got the win, so I don't know where they putting him at this point. So hold on, I'll look it up and see if they did put him in there. Because they just released it. Yeah, they did. They put him at number 2. So they got, actually, I was saying that they had Beck at number 3. Now they have Beck at number 1 in the WBA rankings. So they just released them after those fights. So they got Beck at number 1, Jermall Charlo at number 2, Lester Martinez at number 3, and then, of course, Caleb Plant, who lost the interim title there at number 4. So, yeah, I think when I mentioned there Beck versus Lester Martinez as a potential matchup, it could happen. I don't know if it's going to happen by September, but it could still happen. You know what I mean? Real quick, like big up to everyone that's listening live here. You know, hit the like button if you enjoy the content here, whether it's YouTube or Rumble or whatever it is. And if you can hit the subscribe button here for YouTube, we're getting close to about 3,000 subscribers here on the Boxing Source on the YouTube channel. So if you can spread the word, and it'll be really appreciated here for the Boxing Source, right? All right. So pretty much like cover mostly everything here from this past weekend. This upcoming weekend, we got a number of things going down. We got Keyshawn Davis going up against Edwin De Los Santos, WBO lightweight title fight over at Scope Arena in Norfolk, Virginia. And we getting into it with fight week for that, and Keyshawn has been getting attention there as the WBO lightweight champion. Can he become a superstar? I mean, yeah, he had his recent interview there with Andre Ward. He's kind of like been very vocal over the past 1.5 years. Not just when he was a contender. I mean, not as champion right now, but I'm talking about when he was a contender. Going after like Teofimo Lopez, maybe, or Vontae Tank Davis, so to speak, and then also like Andy Cruz, of course, who we had the past there with the Olympics and also other amateur bouts. Now, with this upcoming fight against Edwin De Los Santos, we got to see how he performs in that. His second time, hosting theirs is in his hometown, Scope Arena. Close to, I would say it's close to being sold out, but number of sections, they only got like maybe, I would say about 20 seats left. I would say 20 seats left in a few sections, or like less than that, like maybe like 10 or 5 in the section. So they're gonna push for the sellout there once again here at the Scope Arena. And if he's in there and he takes care of business against Edwin De Los Santos, that he's gonna be looking for some really meaningful fights there in the lightweight division. Now, if he's put in position to have like some key fights there at lightweight, maybe he could get that moniker of being a top fighter there as far as like popularity is concerned. But he kind of like has it. He has the gab, the talk. He talks trash, all that type of stuff. Or he interacts with the media a lot. So it's not like he's inaccessible to a certain extent. So maybe he could have those elements to be one of those fighters that fans could gravitate in the building. Towards. It says as source going to be in the building. It says source going to be in the building. So yeah, we're gonna see what's going down for fight week. We got the press conference that's going to be Thursday, weigh-in on Friday, and then the fight's on Saturday. They actually do have like a grand arrivals for, I think it's Tuesday, and then they're going to have some events on Wednesday, and then Thursday after the press conference as well. And then, Saturday after the fights, they're going to have something also with the Davis brothers, DB3. So you're going to have a lot of activity there in the city of Norfolk this week. All right. But, for Keyshawn, this is like another opportunity for him to, have an impressive performance. We've seen in the last time that he was out there at Scope Arena, he ended Gustavo Lemos within 2 rounds. You'll give Edwin De Los Santos, more credit than that. Yes, he did have those 2 performances that he had in 2023 there, with of course, Stevenson in November of 2023. We hadn't seen him since there. And I don't know, because he's coming off of that leg injury or, the blood clots in his leg. So is he going to be, fully able to move like he's known to here against Keyshawn Davis? Even if he is, I feel like Keyshawn Davis is just at the point where he knows that he could do a lot in the ring, regardless of who his opponent is. So I feel like it's more about Keyshawn Davis kind of like showing out there in his home crowd this time around, man. What are your thoughts on Keyshawn Davis, the academic?
Well, I don't think this fight will go to 12:30 at night where they are not fighting. So I think Keyshawn loves the fans enough to to put himself at risk to like entertain us. So I mean, I've grown on Keyshawn because I think Keyshawn definitely gives his all. You can tell that that Terrence Crawford, like I'm a winner type attitude is within him. So you can tell he's a winner, and he ain't like he gives his all for the fans. So all of those combined, hey, you can't ask for more than that. And I mean, he gives his all. He talk a little crap, keep you entertained as well. I hope I hope it's a good fight. I just don't think we gonna see no whack fight. I think he'll at least give us a treat.
Yeah, he'll try to end it emphatically.
Yeah.
There against Edwin De Los Santos, and you talk about him. He's under the tutelage there of Brian Bo McIntyre and that whole camp there. Where it's Terrence Crawford, or you have like I said, Keyshawn Davis there. You have what else I say, Lester Martinez, part of that camp. You got Avius Griffin as part of the camp that has a version of a USA welterweight title now. And Troy Isley is part of that camp as well. That's going to be on this card on Saturday. So they have a pretty much like a standard, as some would say, a standard that you have to have yourself up to this particular level in order to kind of like be around that camp there, whether it's at B&B Boxing Academy in Nebraska or them doing the work at Las Vegas, where they've been doing a majority of their training at either there or in Colorado. So with Keyshawn Davis, he's shown that he's had the elements there from this pretty much like when he came out of the Olympics, right? So when he's shown that in Top Rank, seen that in him, that's when they built him up in 2024 to get him in position to fight for the WBO lightweight title against Dennis Berinchyk and win it the way that he did. Just ended up overwhelming Dennis Berinchyk and stopping him. And so now it's like, okay, are they going to continue to ride the wave here for Keyshawn Davis? Now you're going to see what happens here in this second bout at Scope Arena, the atmosphere for that. And then afterwards, what will they be able to do with Keyshawn Davis? Yes, it's been stated that they've been pursuing a fight with Andy Cruz, but at this time, it looks like Andy Cruz and his team are not necessarily interested, which is, like I said, I'm kind of blown by that, because you don't pretty much call out Keyshawn Davis multiple times, and then when you're approached about a fight that they say, well, they're not necessarily ready yet. You should override all those people on your team and say, hey, no, I'm calling them out. If I feel like I can fight them and beat them, I want them right now. And if y'all can't do it for me, then probably go to another team. Yes, I know that Andy Cruz has a fight coming up on the following weekend, but like both of them, they're pretty much on the same schedule. Why not go ahead and have that fight next for both of them? So I see that, with Keyshawn, he has that potential to where he could, really be the guy that fight fans can, gravitate towards, because as you said, they're boxing academic. He, makes it to the point where he either makes it an exciting type of fight, or he makes sure that it's an emphatic ending there to his fights. So that's what I'm looking at here for what's coming up on Saturday, June 7th. And then, of course, as I said, you're going to have Troy Isley on the card. You're going to have, of course, Kelvin Davis on the card. Of course, he was a guest on last week's show. You're going to have Keon Davis on there. You're going to have Abdullah Mason in the co-feature bout against Jeremiah Nakathila. And we all know about Abdullah Mason and him being in the lightweight division too. And we're also going to have Derek Scooter Davis on the card, who we talked with in the past, and also Tiger Johnson supposed to be on the card there. So total of 8 fights on that card there in Norfolk. It's going to be really good. Looking forward to that. We're also going to have some action on Friday night in Verona, New York. We talked with Franchon Cruz Reserndiz, unified super middleweight champion. She's going to be fighting on Friday in Verona, New York. That is a Salida Promotions card. We got a most valuable promotions card in Orlando, Florida on Saturday, and we got a Pro Box TV fight card in San Antonio on Saturday. You got Justin Poldo there in the main event there, and he's going up against Juan Carlos Burgos. So we talked with Justin Poldo a couple of weeks back too. So he's getting ready to fight again in San Antonio. You got Michael Angeletti that's on that card as well in the Pro Box. So a lot of action here this coming weekend. The summer is, kind of piled up there with that. So that's what you got to look forward to this coming weekend. Covered what was going down last weekend. I think the only thing left I would probably say here is, given what was happening over at the Michelob Ultra Arena in Las Vegas on Saturday, you had the fight card, but then also they announced the whole thing for July 19th, headlined by Manny Pacquiao versus Mario Barrios. So, it's still something there where I feel like Manny Pacquiao, if he beats Mario Barrios, man, I'm gonna be like, come on, man. He said, someone that's talking about that Plant Reserndiz thing asked a question there. How many Alvarado says, how about Plant using his jab as a stiff arm? Nor warning from who is it? Who I call him? Dave Chappelle, or I mean, I usually call Dave Chappelle, but Harvey Doc, he kind of uses it like as they do for like Justin to like keep the distance away, but like you'll see that a lot from a lot of fighters, but on the flip side though, if you go in here and then you
grabbing his shoulders, like trying to like headbutt him,
I mean, come on.
And the reason why, okay, so I get what he's saying. If you call one, you call the other. Okay, I get I get the spirit of what my guy's saying. However, Plant using his arm as an arm bar, he still kind of he don't have a lot of strength, so it don't really affect like what the other person is really doing. It might keep the other dude off him for 1 second, but then he still was on him. He still was on him very quickly. Versus what's his name grabbing his shoulders and like headbutting him or jumping. That's flagrant in the sense.
That's more of like a foul or like a flagrant foul, you would say, there, because that some damage could be made if you like connect specifically like on the on the forehead or something like that, if you're intentionally leading with your head up, so even though like you have that thing there where you extend your arm and then you try to get yourself as far as like pushing away or something like that, like you would have to like intentionally like push and see something like that. So as I say multiple times there with Harvey Doc, he ain't necessarily gonna do that, man. We had some comments about Keyshawn Davis. I'm like, come on, man. All right, I'll put it this way, right? With Keyshawn, we're in the lightweight division. We got to see if he could be put in there with a number of these other fighters in lightweight, and we all know who the other top fighters are at lightweight right now are. And can Keyshawn hang with them? Maybe not, but we still got to see it. As I mentioned sometime before with the lightweight division, recent years past, we've had a number of fights within guys that were in the top 10 in the lightweight division. These past couple of years, we haven't necessarily had that. Ever since the fight between Devin Haney and Vasily Lomachenko, we haven't had like that many fights within the top 10 in the lightweight division, and we really haven't had any fights within the top 5 of the division at all. So I'm thinking after what we have in June, July, and we haven't had the announcement yet, but we're looking for it in August. After those 3 months, we need to have these top 5 fighters in the lightweight division fight each other. Like there can't be any way around it at that point. So that's our head on that. Now, Manny Pacquiao versus Mario Barrios, July 19th. I've said it, for weeks. We've had people on here that, had the sources that say that the fight was going to take place on July 19th. Now has been formally announced. WBC welterweight title on the line. Mario Barrios against Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao, 46 years old, 4 years removed from his fight against Yordenis Ugas. Did have a exhibition fight last year, but I mean, it is what it is. Mario Barrios, man, he got to win, man. I'm sorry, he got to win, man. I know some people are saying maybe it would be better for the sport if Manny Pacquiao won. But Mario Barrios got to beat this man, man. Come on, man. Like 4 years out of the ring, 46 years old. Mario Barrios got to win, man. He got to win this, man. If he ends up losing this, boy, I'm like, oh, come on, man. You can't really say much about Mario Barrios at all, man. But on the flip side, though, he's been put in position for a lot of these big fights, man. He had the fights with Tank Davis and Keith Thurman, and now Manny Pacquiao. I'm like, yo, that's gonna be something, man. But Manny Pacquiao has the potential to be a WBC welterweight champion at 46 years old. That's crazy. That's crazy. The fight card is good too, man. You got Cruz versus Fierro. That's gonna be on that card. I mean, that fight that you had on February 1st at T-Mobile Arena, that was like one of those close to fight of the year candidates that they had. So I mean, you're gonna have what was it? I would say two other good matchups. Well, not two good matchups there, but I say it's gonna be an action-packed card. So I'm looking forward to it. Yes, it's gonna be part of a very busy weekend there on July 19th, but that one I think is going to, kind of like close the show for that night. You're gonna have Ben Rodriguez is gonna be fighting on that night as well. You're gonna have the undisputed heavyweight championship fight on that night as well. So July 19th is gonna be stacked for the sport of boxing. All right. So looking forward to that coming up too. So hey, summer for the sport of boxing is gonna be real, real good. So hopefully, fight fans will be able to enjoy all of that there, man. But that's what I had here on this edition of the Boxing Source podcast. Big thanks once again for everyone that's listening live. You can hit the share button, hit the like button if you like the content. You got anything else out here Boxing Academic before we roll out?
I second that. That's gonna be a good card. If what's his name lose to Manny Pacquiao, then we can officially say that he sucks. Because you let an old man essentially beat you. If he lose, that means Manny Pacquiao is now in the conversations to hold up the belt. And while legacy, the thing is, Manny Pacquiao ain't fighting for legacy no more. Like, what he fighting for money essentially at this point. And I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, if Barrios don't win, then yeah, he's gonna continue to be a gatekeeper sort of fight where he will probably beat the low tier up and comers that they face him against. But then, past that B level or higher, then he won't beat those guys.
Man, listen. A couple days ago, I talked with, his coach, his trainer there, Bob Santos. I might have to hit him up again and say, man, hey, listen, I don't care what y'all do at camp. Y'all better have Manny Pacquiao beat this dude. I swear, man, because, ain't no way he should win against Mario Barrios. It just can't happen. But, like I said, for fight fans, they'll say it might be better for the sport of boxing as Manny Pacquiao wins. I've heard some crazy matchups if Manny Pacquiao defeats Mario Barrios for the WBC welterweight title, even to the point of Manny Pacquiao facing Tank Davis for the WBC welterweight title. Oh my God, if we tell you, man, we can't have it. Yeah, hey, shout out, champ, man. Hey, champ, I'm telling you, listen, I can't even imagine if Manny Pacquiao ended up stopping Mario Barrios, dog. If Manny Pacquiao ends up stopping Mario Barrios, then the boxing academic might put Mario Barrios there in the same light as Julius Ndongo. He might do that. Okay.
Well, no, I wouldn't give him that bad because
yeah, at
let me
least
say this.
The multi-division champ. Yeah.
Let me say this.
Yeah.
Depending on what type of drug testing they do, that could be a viable outcome. Let's just say this
Hey,
is lenient.
Batter better be on point because hey, it's supposed to be clean by some program with the WBC. Come on, y'all. Don't
Yeah, it's supposed to be. Let's hope so. Now,
right.
if everything on the up and up, then Manny Pacquiao should not be able to go into some reserves that we didn't know were still there. And if it's not, then he'll look like young Manny Pacquiao, and they'll be like, "Oh, he's still young, the fountain of youth, and all this other stuff." He's just gonna look like a totally different fighter.
The great Manny Pacquiao is
the great
back.
Manny Pacquiao. He's done it again. He's beaten someone who is 15 years his junior.
Hey, I mean, you got Jim Lampley that is doing commentating for the Ring Magazine events. But if he was on this and Manny Pacquiao won, he'd be like, he's done it. He's actually done it. Like the late George Foreman. Shout out George Foreman when he beat Michael Moore or something, man. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm telling you, they can't happen. It just can't happen, y'all.
But let me say this. I don't care what else he do, but he better make Manny Pacquiao feel old by going to Manny Pacquiao's body. That's gonna be the one way that we know for sure that he does win the fight on points, on whatever, is if he goes to Manny Pacquiao's body. Because as an old man, Manny Pacquiao can't take them shots no more.
Yeah. Shout out Chip Ross, man. Hey, when they had that highlight video of Manny Pacquiao there on that PBC card yesterday, yeah, they were showing some clips of Manny Pacquiao when he was at flyweight. I'm like, yo, don't show those clips at flyweight. Show his clips where he was at welterweight. I mean, at the very least, show the part where Manny Pacquiao actually scored the knockdown against Keith Thurman or something, or show some good highlights of Manny Pacquiao when he was fighting Yordan Sugas or whatever. But like, you can't show clips of him back in 2010. Like, what are we doing? Oh man, hey, shout out to PBC though. They did do their work as far as putting them highlights together. Come on, y'all.
Yeah, they do look out for their old fighters though. That's one thing you got to say. They look out for their aging fighters.
Yeah, they do. They sure do. You know what I mean? So, but hey, that's gonna be something here that we're gonna be talking about more as the days get closer to July 19th. But also, I talked about the other fights that are gonna be on that card for July 19th, and it may be a stretch, but I'm working on getting something secured to talk with another fighter that will be on the card for July 19th. So if I'm able to pull this off, it'll be really big, and I'll be very thankful if this actually happens. But we'll see how that works itself out. So maybe in the news within the next few days, or maybe later on in the week, we'll see if we get work on getting an interview with one of those other fighters that are involved in a fight card for July 19th. So, all right, that's what I got here on this sense for the Boxing Source podcast. Once again, thanks for listening in live. We'll catch y'all, I guess, Wednesday with a midweek report before we see what's going down over in Norfolk. And with that being said, hey, I'll catch y'all later, y'all. Peace out.